So recently, a bunch of unaired pilots found their way online, dating back to the 90s. What I want to do is look at these pilots and determine two things. 1, did it have potential? And 2, how different would popular culture be if this pilot was picked up for series? Today we're opening up the pilot vault and looking at the pilots for a show called Dead Boss, the first show that Jane Krakowski did, after 30 Rock wrapped up the season prior. The cast in this one is fantastic, so many recognisable names. Amy Sedaris from The Mandalorian and BoJack, David Cross from Mr. Show and Arrested Development, and perhaps most interesting of all, Saturday Night Live's Rachel Dratch. See, I figured there would be some bad blood between them, because when they originally made 30 Rock, Rachel played the role of Jenna. They even shot the pilot with her in that role, but the network wanted Jane instead, so she was given the boot. They must have been fine with it though, if she's appearing in this. I don't know. I think Tina Fey mentioned it in her autobiography, but I can't remember what she said. So this show is based on a BBC 3 series that I've never heard of, about a woman trying to prove her innocence after being falsely accused and convicted of killing her boss. There's actually a bit of a weird way this show came about. Peter Rice, the president of Fox at the time, saw how successful Netflix was with their prison show Orange is the New Black, and he decided that he wanted a piece of the action, so he ordered this pilot, but for some reason never picked it up for a full series, which is weird, but you know, it happens. Right, let's give this a look. We start with Jane's character in court, talking to her lawyer. She's hopeful that the jury will find her innocent, but they don't. Her character's named Helen. David Cross plays her boss. Hey, that rhymes. The guy she's accused of murdering, and she's given 20 years in a women's prison. And for some reason, we have this religious fruitcake doing loads of swearing that is blanked out, so we don't hear any of it. So what was the point? Is it just funny because the religious lady is swearing? I don't know. Helen then meets her cellmate, played by Rachel Dratch. Now, I don't know about you, but I have never found Rachel Dratch funny. She wasn't funny in 30 Rock when she played a bunch of different characters, and she wasn't funny in Parks and Rec. She's doing time because she sets fires, and she helps Helen get gum out of her hair because the other prisoners bullied her on the first day. Helen arranges a bunch of books about women in the workplace on the shelf. Notice how one book is missing. Nice girls don't get the corner office. Hopefully this pilot is better than that one. We then get a bit which I didn't necessarily find funny, where Jenna is walking around in her cell and Rachel Dratch is following her everywhere she goes. I see what they were going for though, I didn't find it funny. She writes a letter to her daughter Cricket. Wait, no, that was How I Met Your Dad. Wrong pilot. She writes a letter to her pen pal where she says that she was completely innocent. Then we get a flashback to when her boss was alive, which is good, because I was worried they were going to waste David Cross by having him only appear in images. He's being suspicious and she is determined to solve his murder using flashbacks. Amy Sedaris is in this and they don't really do anything with her. Such a waste. His sister visits her in jail and she attempts to get her to help her solve the murder. There's an account that her boss always worked on by himself and she's suspicious of it and thinks that it's somehow involved in his murder. The sister character is obviously the it's funny because she's stupid type. We've just had to put up with this in I Shudder. I didn't need it in this as well. We follow Helen's sister as she goes to investigate the case the dead boss was working on. Now, I've never seen Orange is the New Black, but did they often spend long scenes outside of the prison, following family members of the prisoners? I feel like if they're already trying to set things outside of the prison, then maybe they don't have enough material to do a full series. Just a hunch. This episode should have all been set in the prison. Honestly, I had really high hopes for this pilot, because I saw a lot of people praising it, but maybe the humour just isn't for me. Like I said, I just don't find Rachel Dratch funny. I didn't crack a smile once at any one of her jokes. I presume they were jokes anyway. The camera stayed on her for a very long time while she was saying weird stuff. Honestly, I reckon I'm in the wrong about this one, but to me, this scene simply wasn't funny. I'll play some of it.
People here are great. Have you met my friend Helen? She's new. See? Good afternoon. Have you met me best chum, Ellen? This one loves me. Helen Stevens, my dear friend. You know, we're gonna play some cards later in the Crazy Eights if you wanna drop by. It's kind of our thing. So, where'd she go?
What do you think? Were you creasing, like laughing so hard you couldn't breathe? Am I missing out by just not getting it? Let me know in the comments, because maybe this is good and I'm just not getting it. I'm completely open to being completely wrong on this one. Helen sits at the table of the toughest person in the prison, which obviously causes trouble. Then we get a joke that I actually did laugh at, delivered by Rachel. It comes from a misunderstanding from her when Jenna says that they're not girlfriends, they're cellmates, to which Rachel quips,
I'm not her girlfriend, we're cellmates.
Helen, you're my soulmate too.
honestly, solid joke. I enjoyed it, well done. See, I'm not against this show, I'm willing to praise it if it does stuff well. We're meant to be intimidated by this woman because she's apparently the scariest woman in the prison, but she's tiny and on a level of not intimidating to intimidating. She's very low down on the scale. I don't get it. I know this is meant to be a joke, but nah, it doesn't work. Helen calls her sister. She has gotten Helen's old job, despite being massively underqualified. Helen is obviously fuming at this. We then learn that Helen's boss's body was never found, which almost certainly means he's not really dead. I bet you any money he went into hiding after getting too involved with the mob or something. Her lawyer shows her appeal papers, so Helen is obviously looking forward to getting out of there. Meanwhile, Rachel Dratch gets beat up in the prison showers because she's friends with Helen. Helen is thankful for Rachel for getting beat up. I don't know why. It's not like she chose to get beat up instead of her or anything. She didn't have much of a choice in it, so I don't see why she's getting praised. And they have some banter to show that they're friends now. We then get another flashback with David Cross, where we see him arranging to take Helen with him to an event instead of Amy Sedaris' character. Amy's character is obviously fuming at this, sowing the seeds of her potentially being the one who killed him. We see that everyone in the office had a motive to kill David Cross. And how do we know this? Well, it's because she just tells us, because you know, obviously they don't want to spend time actually establishing good characters and motives when you can just as easily say rather than show. Lazy writing. We see someone delete a file that Helen told her sister to search for. It's somehow related to the boss's murder. Some mysterious dude in gloves. It was probably the mysterious guy from the end of the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Well, if we're being honest, this probably wasn't a guy at all. It was a woman, wasn't it? Which one though? Well, it was probably the woman who sat there quiet in the background for the entire episode. It was almost certainly her. There's two people I reckon this could have been with the gloves deleting the file. Either this woman or it's David Cross. And the reason why he's wearing gloves is to cover up the fact that he's the only white man in the series. So it'd give it away if it was just a white man's hand, wouldn't it? I bet you any money they was gonna go one of these two ways with it. And Rachel Dratch burns Helen's appeal papers, so she has to stay in prison with her. Yeah, that's not how it works. You can just knock up some new copies of that. That's not how any of this works. Honestly, despite starting this pilot disappointed, by the end of it I was definitely more invested in it. I'm actually intrigued about who actually did it, who murdered David Cross, so it's a shame we'll never get answers to it. I could could always watch the original BBC series that it was based on, I suppose. You know what, we'll do that on the second channel. If there's enough interest in this video, we'll watch that other series on the second channel, so subscribe to that. And right, where does this rank among the other unaired pilots we've talked about? Honestly, from what I've read of what other people are saying about this pilot, most people will put this high up, but I'm putting it in the middle somewhere. Maybe a little bit higher up than the middle. I'll tell you what, we'll put it in between Man-Child and Imperfect Union. That's about where it stands for me. Right, if there's any other unaired pilots you want me to look at, then let me know in the comments. And subscribe, help us get to 4K. Right, I'll let you go. Bye.